Hey, I'm Carrie. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome for the first time. All around, welcome. I'm Carrieblogger, a career freelancer on Fiverr.com, where I've been selling as a Fiverr Pro verified copywriter for about the past 8 years. And in today's chatty, unedited One Take Tuesday video, I am revealing the edit for another of my rewrites. So if you are unfamiliar with the video, please be sure to check this one out. Or don't, I don't care. But what essentially I'm doing is I am rewriting 8 or 7 or so, I don't know how many years later, 6? It was from 2014. January 2014 was when I originally wrote the content. It was $5 for a client back then, and I wanted to give another crack at it with years of experience under my belt and see if I can create something that's a little bit better, basically. So I am a self-taught copywriter, as I've explained in other videos on my channel, and I don't think that copywriting is an unattainable skill. I don't think it's something that you even have to necessarily go to college for, but you do have to have a strong command of the English language. You have to have grammar bulletproof, and you need to be eager to get better and willing to do your research and learn. So that is how I've gone from the content that I delivered back in 2014 to what I'm going to reveal for you today. So just like the last video series I did for this, I'm just gonna read through it first, just so we get a sense of the content as a whole. And then I'm planning to go kind of line by line and explain my thought process and rationale for why I chose to do this. Let's get into it. So previously that was marketed as a blog post, but what it really was an about page. So in my rewrite, I decided to take a little bit of liberty, and although it has pretty much the same word count, this is going to be formatted as an about page. So, about us. Brand, because again, this is fake. I'm making all this up. Years later, I took out the brand name. Okay. Brand connects givers and receivers with total transparency. And again, if you haven't seen the other video, the phrase givers and receivers was something that the brand had requested. Let me start again. Okay, no more chatting. Brand connects givers and receivers with total transparency. Request help, send donations, and make new friendships with people around the world. Our platform is fully funded by Amazon affiliate commission, and we don't charge any user fees. Let's start a conversation and make charity more personal. Givers. Brand focuses on real stories, specific requests, and meaningful connections. Read user-submitted blogs, choose who you'd like to help, and purchase Amazon products directly from their wish lists. Now you can give back in a more personal way. Share your stories of need, hardship, receivers, that's the other part. Share your stories of need, hardship, or inspiration in a safe, welcoming space. Then create Amazon wish lists to request specific items. Oh my gosh. Only you know what products you and your family need most. Brand makes it easy to ask for them. And then the click button would be to sign up. The power of generosity. And these are headers, but I guess I'll explain that in a sec. When Sally stepped up as my giver, I was overjoyed. I'm a first-generation college student, and I didn't have enough money to pay for books my last term. She read my blog post, messaged me back, and bought my entire Amazon wish list. We're still in touch, and Sally has become my mentor. I'm so grateful to her and Brand for bringing us together. 67,500 donations, 40,000 members in 32 countries. A better way to give back, compassion and connection. Donations are essential, but friendship is invaluable. At Brand, we aim to connect givers and receivers on a deeper level. We encourage members to leave comments, send messages, and connect via Zoom. Physical donations can make a huge difference in someone's well-being and comfort, but it's not a long-term solution. Your understanding, compassion, and friendship can change lives forever. Register now. Okay, so obviously I took a lot of liberties, if you are familiar with my previous video and the first draft that I wrote back then. Partially because A, this is made up as a little challenge for myself, so I guess I'm allowed to. And B, I'm making some assumptions of how the client would engage with me for this. So for example, this, as what I envision it, is one of those banners with the number, like statistics on it that would go up over time. Clearly I'm making all of these up, but I would assume that if this was a real client that I had, I would ask them for that information and say, hey, can we, put this into real numbers, real terms, and I would get that information from them. Same with this testimonial here. Let me be super clear about this, never, ever, ever recommend that anyone writes fake testimonials. That's called lying. It's not cool. I never write any kinds of fake testimonials or testimonials of any kind for clients. So this right here, again, is something that I would be asking them for, and I would be piecing together a story that they would have from a case study, or if they had, a testimonial that I would say, can we get some kind of content that would give this kind of impression? That's the story that you want to tell with your brand, and then I would be putting that in right here. So again, taking lots of creative liberties here, but just to I don't know, if I have free reign right now, I guess I'm in charge of it. So with this, I see this as an about page, and so I have formatted this to reflect that. So for example, with the givers and receivers part here, because they're targeting two different audiences, it's hard to write content that speaks universally to everyone, because anytime you say you or your, you are by definition speaking to one of those groups, almost always. So I think I made it successfully. Well, except for this one. I think this is the only one right here. Your understanding, compassion, and friendship can change lives forever. But in that case, although it's more geared toward the giver side of things, assuming that they are showing understanding and compassion, technically that's something that also receivers can offer as well. Like if a receiver becomes a friend to a giver and they have a connection that feels meaningful and valuable for both of them, this statement by default is not like excluding one of those audiences. But overall, I don't write to both audiences at once because I don't want to exclude half. I had a really hard time with this sentence right here. I rewrote it several times because I kept trying to say like, your dollars will do the most good, or your entire donation. And I realized the reason I didn't like it, and I rewrote and settled on this version, is because to say that would be to exclude the receiver's half of the audience. So keeping that in mind, I wanted to make sure that I could speak to each part individually, which is why I separated the givers section, talking about their role in the process, and the receiver section, talking about their role in the process. And I see that as being a split side-by-side part on the page in the web design, so that neither role gets a higher value, because obviously the content that you hit first when you're scrolling down a page has an inherent higher value than something that you would have to scroll to and is more covered up, essentially. And I like to write headers and subheaders. Not always. You'll notice that there's a mix of just a header, right? And this one down here has two. This is covered in my Fiverr Learn course. I'm not going to go the whole into it, but I think that it's a useless way of writing to write with questions. And it's kind of more of like an old thing that I've noticed on more outdated content. So if they said, like, what do we do? Why choose us? Like those questions don't serve any real purpose. And I think that it's much more valuable for the real estate with the size of content with large headers like that to just tell them. So yeah, you'll notice that I'm not just using questions for any of those, because I think that that's a waste of your real estate on a web page. Okay, so the concept of givers and receivers was core to the brand. These are on my head again, and I don't know why. And so I wanted to start with that right out of the gate, because that is what makes this made up brand so unique. And again, it was a real thing in 2014 when I wrote for this, but at this point it's not real anymore. And that was like their central part of defining their brand. And the transparency thing as well is a unique element, because they made it clear that there are no administrative fees. And I know that people who want to give to charities, we often worry about, how much of my money is actually going to help someone? How much is getting lost in the process? Like, how do I do the most good? And so I wanted to put that, why do I keep messing with these? Taking that centrally, okay? This is one of the things I like for my own voice and pacing, is to, as I mentioned, put 2 word verb sets together in a list. I just think it sounds really nice to say request help, send donations, and make friendships. I could easily have flipped the sentence around and it would have sounded a lot clunkier if I said make new friendships with people around the world, request help, and send donations. That sounds awful. So I recommend making sure that your pacing matches and then finishing with the longer part of your sentence at the end. Just sounds better that way. And you'll notice here again, I am really reinforcing right out of the gate the givers and receivers thing. So requesting help, making donations, bringing those people together, okay? And then I'm making this up, but I kind of assume that would be how they would do it. They said that they don't charge any administrative fees. And so I'm just going to assume, since it's Amazon wishlist, they did affiliate commission. And I think being as transparent about that as possible would be really effective. And again, if this was a real client, I'd be asking those questions, but it's not, so I'm making it up. Let's start a conversation and make charity more personal. I think that the personal element of it was something that I didn't touch on at all in my 2014 version. But that's really the crux of the brand. Like, we can talk about the transparency-ish part and like how you get it going and how that compares to other charity stuff, but it's about people, and it's about people making a meaningful connection to help each other out, both as givers and as receivers. And I think that this, like, let's start a conversation really brings everyone into the mix of it. I kind of repeated this concept here. Now you can give back in a more personal way. There are lots of ways to give back. So without saying, unlike other charities that are faceless and anonymous, like, I could have gone that way and compared to like a negative thing that others are doing, but I wanted to keep it all really positive. So that's why I decided to frame it this way. I think that the first version, which I commented on in my like roasting it, going through and being like, what was I thinking? In that video, I kept explaining like the way that the Amazon thing was explained just wasn't very clear, and I didn't even understand what I was trying to say. And so I think that this made it more clear. It's kind of hard to describe how and why, but because the Amazon wishlist thing has kind of a different role for both audiences. So for the givers, it's more of like being able to choose a specific product and like knowing that that A, that's what they want, B, like there's no question of the transparency issue, and also it's just really easy. Like, it's like a wedding registry, right? It's easier to just go and look what someone wants and just give it to them than try to guess at all of that. So that's how the wish list thing fits into the giver's situation. And then with the receivers, requesting specific items, only you know what products you and your family need most. Again, I wrote that in a more of a negative way in the previous version, talking about how charities often give like random or generic or, just suggested donations, but that doesn't always match what the people actually need and want in a specific way. So again, same concept. I liked what I was trying to say before, but I think that this more positive, more direct version of it is just more effective. Again, this here, I'm writing it because I don't have a client to ask, but what my goal was with the story is focusing on the short-term and long-term effects. That's another piece with this brand that I'm trying to invest or like set up for them. So I also got to that later on, but the actual product has a value for both parties, right? The giver feels good about buying the product for them. The receiver feels good that they receive something they want right now. But the unique differentiation for this imaginary platform is that it can turn into something more. It can turn into a friendship, a mentorship, people feeling like they support each other, and this like feel good value for both sides. And so I wanted to make sure that this imaginary story had the short-term and long-term effects built in. And then I really like this line. It's not even that clever, but I really like it. Donations are essential, but friendship is invaluable. That bigger purpose, the something that makes you just like feel, tug on your heartstrings kind of value. And then I have the buttons built into this because whenever you are writing for a web page, we need to make sure that you are creating navigation points. So when people are reading, you always are going somewhere. Either that's scrolling down the page, you get to the bottom to a call to action, and you move elsewhere, you keep going in the journey. That's great. But there's other times that I don't think you have to wait to the end to give them that opportunity. So with the givers and receivers, you're giving them separate avenues to go and start their journey with the platform. And I don't know how loud that is, but my husband just decided to open the garage door. All right, so that is the new content. I'm pretty happy with it. Honestly, the version before was not bad. It wasn't good. And there were a lot of things that just like literally just dumb grammar mistakes needed to be fixed. But overall, I felt like it did a pretty good job of capturing the concepts of what I wanted to say. But I think this is way, way better. So I hope that if nothing else, I don't know, you get some writing tips. People have commented that that's been helpful, whether I mean to say writing tips or not. And also just inspirationally, I hope that you can see that everyone has the opportunity to get better. Partially just writing a lot, you'll get a lot better. But also taking a critical look at the writing that you're putting out, really hard on yourself and honest, and being willing to put in the work to get better. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. And I am just interested in that. On Friday, coming up, I'm going to be going through and editing some of you guys' submissions for the same rewrite, and I will talk a bit about that in comparison. So that's coming up soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let's get back to work.